Today we take a look at a breed of long-wool sheep that was facing the very real possibility of dying out completely if steps weren't taken to preserve this proud and historically significant animal. And what a shame that would have been, because the Wensleydale has so much to offer both for your land and as a highly productive sheep that will keep producing for you for many, many years. The Wensleydale has been around for about 300 years, slowly being shaped and bred to produce as much wool as a sheep possibly could grow. But the long-haired breed got its final tweak when a ewe was introduced to a ram by the name of Blue Cap in 1838 in North Yorkshire, England. He was an unusually large cross between a Dishley-Leicester ram and a Teeswater ewe. The blue pigmentation in his face and his exceptionally thick coat came through in every lamb he fathered. His offspring all had his dark facial features and even longer and more luxurious wool than any other breed at the time. If ever there was an animal that came close to resembling a llama, it would be the Wensleydale. Their distinctive long tresses and dark faces made for a very unique-looking sheep. They were so striking that nobles kept them, not just for the wool they produced, but also because they were quickly becoming a status symbol. Weavers clamored to get their hands on Wensleydale fleece. The exceptional quality of the wool was second to none. The demand for Wensleydale wool as a showpiece encouraged the breeding program to pick up pace. They were hardy, easy to manage, and absolutely massive compared to other breeds. But their excellent wool, high mutton weight, and the simple fact that they were valued as much for their visual appearance as they were for their produce hiked up their pierce tag so much that the everyday farmer looked for more affordable options instead. And in just a little over 100 years later, the Wensleydale went from a promising start to nearly dying out completely. Even if they could produce more and do so more efficiently than any other breed in Europe, they were just too rare and expensive for farmers to bother procuring. In the 1970s, serious steps were taken to revive the now nearly extinct breed. In 20 years, their populations had grown enough that the USA extended a helping hand and took a few hundred across the seas to continue the efforts of keeping the proud English breed on the roster. Although human intervention has helped significantly, Wensleydales are still labeled as an at-risk breed by the United Nations. But we've come a heck of a long way to increase their numbers since the 70s, and their value is no longer dragged down by their surface-level attractiveness, but instead, they are more fairly looked at for their commercial value. And speaking of value, there are very few wool-bearing sheep as highly valued as the Wensleydale. Wensley's coats come in white, black, grey, and even sometimes shades of ginger. The black fleece is by far the rarest and goes for the most on the market, and their skin is always black, with a bluish tinge throughout. You can spot this pigmentation by their black-tipped ears and their black faces and hooves. And then there's the most striking and important feature of the Wensleys, their fleece. Their wool hangs all the way to the ground in long strands or even sometimes ringlets. Unlike other breeds that have bushy, outward-growing fleece, it holds the highest luster in the world, and their fleeces have absolutely no kemp, a rare and costly attribute that makes them the wool of choice for hand weavers. If their coats are not sheared regularly, they can quickly reach the ground. Their fleece grows evenly from the top to the bottom. No matter what part of the Wensley you shear, you'll always get the same wool, whether that's from its legs, belly, or back. This is highly unusual among shearing breeds, and the absolute minimum amount of wool will be discarded. To say that the Wensleydales are unique is an understatement. It's got shine and luster, and its long strands have a high tensile strength, meaning it can be spun much finer than other kinds of wool can. But they aren't just good for their fleece. Given the high quality of their wool, it's easy to forget just how incredibly large and high yield their mutton is too. They can weigh anywhere between 200 to 300 pounds at the high end for rams. Wensleys will give you a nice lean cut with a good meat-to-bone ratio. And given that they are the largest size sheep that the British Isles, and all of Europe for that matter, has to offer, you'll have plenty of mutton to work with at the end of the day. Besides a little care to keep their coats on a regular shearing schedule, the Wensleys are very easygoing and hardy sheep to keep up with. They are relatively disease-resistant, except for the usual hoof and leg conditions that are common in any kind of sheep breed. Just keep an eye on their lower extremities for rot and abscesses. But if their pastures are big and their sleeping spaces are kept clean, you shouldn't have many problems with their feet. They are excellent foragers, and when they are given the room for it, they'll seek out their own nourishment just fine. As fancy as they look, they sure don't hold themselves to a high standard of care. They'll scale the rockiest hills and brave the wettest conditions to seek out what feed they need to keep themselves healthy. Ewes have fantastic birth rates, with twinning being common among them, and they take good care of their young without too much need for help from humans. Though they can adapt to both colder and warmer climates, taking them to the heat of tropical climates might be pushing them to their limits. They definitely do better in the northern, cooler hemispheres. Herds have been successfully kept in the US as far down as Kansas and Colorado without any significant problems. There haven't been many attempts to keep them further down than that, so if you're willing to experiment, why not give it a try? By all accounts, they've been able to adapt to every environment that they've been put into, and as herds have grown and spread further south, we won't be surprised to find a few farther down south by now. Given the very high value of their fleece and the huge amount of mutton they can supply, there's no reason that the Wensleydale should still be on the list for endangered breeds. Their wool is in such high demand and fetches a very attractive price on the market, and they are surprisingly easy to care for. With dedicated breeding and a steady rise in their population, the Wensleydale's lamb price has slowly become more reasonable. Farmers across Europe and the US can now start looking at keeping Wensleydale herds without breaking the bank. Yes, they're still a little more pricey than other lower-quality fleece breeds, but that won't be the case for much longer if we keep preserving the breed as we are doing now. We're thrilled to see the Wensleydales rise in popularity. With weavers and high-end retailers at the front of the pack, their financial backing has been essential to keeping the demand for their fleece firmly at the top of the market. Are you interested in exploring a versatile, high-quality yet cost-effective sheep for your farm? Or are you, like us, fascinated and passionate about the rare, unique breeds? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and share it with others who'll find this magnificent long-tasseled sheep just as intriguing as we did.